Welcome to Old Wise Guys with Opinions. And right now we're going to do an As Good as I Remember, where we ask a question about a movie we remember. Was it as good as I remember? I am Michael, and this is.
Bernard.
And I chose for our first, as good as I remember, the movie Idle Hands. And Idle Hands is a movie that I ran across probably on Prime Star on 2000 when you had the not as giant as they were in the 80s satellite dishes. And I remember, run across them like, oh, I've heard about this movie. I should watch it. And right now, I'm going to tell you the only two things that I remembered from this movie.
I bet I can guess.
I remembered that it had Seth Green and wow, now I can't remember her name.
Jessica
Yeah,
Alba.
Jessica Alba in it, and I knew Jessica Alba because there was a TV series from James Cameron that lasted like 2 years called Dark Angel, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, she's really cute. Oh, Jessica Alba's in this movie. And the only other memory I have of that movie is that there was something about an air duct. I can't remember anything else, but I remember there was an air duct, something about a scene with an air duct. That's all I remembered. Nothing else. So,
And now you understand why you remember the scene with an air duct.
yes, there was a reason that 26-year-old me was like, "Oh, I'm going to remember this air duct," which, we can discuss later. Um, No, and it's the premise of this movie is completely ridiculous. It's um, stoner kid wakes up with a demon hand.
Yep.
I mean, and that's kind of the plot. And I don't know. I mean, I'm watching it again, going, did somebody watch Evil Dead 2 and go, let's just make a movie about a hand? And
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression based on the time it was made and when I watched it. I mean, I don't know. What year did it come out?
98, 99.
Okay, I probably saw it around that time. I don't think. I didn't go to the theater and see it. I'm sure I picked it up on VHS or something. It had a very like Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series kind of feel, like it was uh, that must have been a popular like on in reaching its popularity at that point. Um, when I saw it, and I remember liking it at the time.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I was always like, oh, I need to pick this up when I see it out. And then for years I'd run across it in a secondhand shop and look at it, and it was like pan and scan,
Hmm.
and I'm like, no, no, not pan and scan. I must have it in widescreen. Um, and
Which is
so
interesting because after you mentioned that, because I was like, yeah, I have it on DVD, and you were like, oh, I never bought it because it's always in pan and scan. I was like, I have to double check mine, and the version I have is one of those flip discs, I think, where it's like pan and scan on one side and widescreen on the other, which is not ideal, but at least I had it in widescreen.
okay, so yeah, I finally ran across it. I think there's a 20th anniversary edition that came out, which has a really cool cover. It's just like the demon hand itself. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy this and sit down and watch it again. And it's funny. I enjoyed it. And so there's some things that it reminds me of that's newer. And I don't know if they got some of those ideas from it, or it's just kind of that everybody has the same idea at the same idea at the same time kind of thing. Um, but one, like, at the beginning, after his, well, first of all, I do have to say Fred Willard.
Fred Willard, always enjoyable.
Yeah. So and it's kind of
Underutilized in this film, but
yeah. He's in it for what 5 minutes?
yeah,
The
probably.
very first 5 minutes. Like oh, it's Fred Willard, and then he's gone. Um, the but then the stoner kid's obliviousness to everything that had been going on, that something happened to his parents and their bodies are on display, and he's like wanders through the house and doesn't even see any of this stuff. It just reminded me of Shaun of the Dead, where he's like he goes down to the corner store to
Right.
get, and all of this stuff's going on in the background, and
Yeah,
you know
you're so caught up in your own little world that you're oblivious to the chaos and carnage around you. I think that was a pretty good mislead at some level too, where at the beginning you're not supposed to know that the kid is responsible for all
right.
this. So it's just like he's high and has headphones on and is sleeping in the attic, and while his parents are being massacred, is the setup.
Yeah.
Um, and then you realize, later that he's the one that was responsible for it, or at least his hand was. Um, but it sets it up as like a sort of a mystery, which really doesn't last that long.
No, no. And there are some things that I laughed and laughed. The scene where he's figured out that something horrible is going on, and the dog's sitting there, and he just shoves the dog slowly around the corner, like here's my sacrifice, eat it first or whatever.
Or like, yeah, the dog is determined not to go investigate with him. You just send him in first.
This is like the anti Scooby. Well, it's like Scooby Doo, and he's like, oh, no.
Yeah. I,
Um,
there's some chuckle worthy moments scattered throughout. It's pretty solid in its comedy.
Yeah, I will say it's like so I'm watching it, and Seth Green's in it, but then the other friend, I can't remember his name, but it's like, oh, it's the guy who plays Daredevil's sidekick in the Daredevil TV show. Um, so I was like, that's cool. I recognize that guy. Um, which leads me though, that guy to the I can handle gore. I mean, we have watched so many movies that have some pretty high levels of gore. But what I could not handle was the burrito scene.
Oh, where it's oozing out of
Yeah,
his
where it's,
severed
oh
neck.
my God. So,
Well, you have that problem with I know in the past have expressed a huge disinterest in like fluid. Like blood and guts are not bad,
hey,
but
that's
if
great.
somebody
That's
has
great.
snot,
Oh, man. Ugh.
yeah, or vomit or things like that, you're yeah,
Okay, yeah, that kind of stuff, man, and that's why I'm glad my wife can handle that stuff with our children.
yeah.
It's like, please, you can go clean up the puke. I'll take and throw them in the bathtub and hose them down, but you can take care of cleaning it off the floor. I appreciate that. So
The
yeah, it okay. So it is a lot of fun. But there was the thing that gets me and gets me in a movie, and I'm like, this is so unrealistic. And I have to talk about it. Is the movie trope girlfriend?
Oh my gosh, she is the quintessential uh, unobtainable girl
Hmm.
that the worst person in the world ends up with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, he's a slacker. He has zero future. He has nothing to offer a relationship. But apparently, not only was he hung up on her, which is understandable, but she's been hung up on him. And I'm like, no, no.
yeah. It's like the Anakin Skywalker syndrome, where this person has no qualities that a girl like that would be into. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where it's like so unrealistic.
there are red flags.
There are plenty, and she just heads right at them.
Yeah, no, it is. It and it sets up unrealistic expectations.
But don't all movies do that to a degree when you think about it?
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Especially of that time, like the 80s through the 90s, there was like the you always got the girl, whether you
Yeah,
were deserving of it or not. It was you know, I mean, like some people I get, like Indiana Jones, I can see you getting a girl. You've earned that. But because he's cool,
or James
or at
Bond
least
has just saved your life, and well, hello, Miss Moneypenny, and or
right.
whatever. But yeah, and there's between that movie trope and then the wife and I, she gets all up with like those films like She's All That, where it's like, oh, we're gonna take this quirky,
Rachel Lee Cook,
loose, yeah, I
possibly one of the
know,
most adorable
adorable, yeah,
girls in the world,
yeah,
and we put glasses on her and splatter some paint on her,
yeah,
and that makes her unattractive.
yeah.
No, nobody's buying that.
Do you know they remade that and gender swapped it?
No, I did not.
They did. I saw a trailer for it and I went, yeah, that's all I need to
So
see.
now it's he's all that.
He's all that.
And was he equally as unattractive before?
No, yeah, no, it's not. It
Or was
has
he
nothing
like
to do
you
that.
take
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth and put some glasses on him, and that makes him ugly?
Well, no, I think it's like the Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker, because again, there was nothing really nerdy about him, but oh, he had a skateboard, so that made him.
That made him cooler than Peter Parker deserved to be,
Yeah, that's true.
um, traditionally. But I love Andrew Garfield, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, in Idle Hands, it is as good as it is good as I remember for that one scene though, and it is it's over too soon, and there is some fun little gore to it. Is the escape from the dance, and everybody's on the run, and Jessica Alba and her friend end up crawling through the air ducts in their
Halloween costumes,
yes Halloween costumes.
which
They're
are
they're
seductive, shall we say.
there's a lot of cleavage in that air duct, and that's why that little
Right.
lizard part of my brain stored that information away.
It's funny that it only remembered the air duct,
Yeah,
though.
why is that the case? I mean, you don't remember that? Oh, she looked great in that. Is there's an air duct?
Right.
Did I can
See,
put it
my
in there?
lizard brain is the opposite in that I remember that scene for the legs, but also the scene that superseded it is the girl in the kiss makeup in the car who gets murdered
Yeah.
because she takes her top off. And so my lizard brain etches that into the back of my. So when I'm like, oh, idle hands, yeah, there's boobs in that.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know why. Is it one of those things where my brain was like, "Oh, this is a boob scene, but there's too many of those etched in my brain that I'll never be able to recall it. So there's only like a handful of air duct scenes. We'll put you over here with Bruce Willis.
John McClane's cleavage is enticing.
Welcome to the party, pal."
So, yeah. I mean, I have always enjoyed it. That's why when you said, "Is it as good as I remember?" I said I watch that at least every couple years.
Yeah.
Because I still enjoy it. It is not a great movie, but it is what is advertised on the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a horror stoner sex comedy. It has the appropriate amount of gore.
Mm-hmm.
It has the appropriate amount of nudity, which is only that one scene.
Yeah.
And I think it has a fairly interesting premise and setup, and the resolution is acceptable. I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate the end where they, throw the dagger that can kill the demon hand, and it like just stabs it, and then just kind of goes poof. And
Yeah.
the character even comments like that was weak.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
there's no explosion or hellfire or blue laser shooting into the sky. It's just like, eh,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Now, no. What's kind of weird though? It's like the director. The director was Rodman Flender. Name a movie that he went on to direct after this.
Oh,
Can you?
this,
Can you?
absolutely not.
Yeah, that's because there's nothing else. There's like
So he directed one movie.
it kind of looks that way. I mean, he directed TV series, episodes of shows and stuff.
So you're telling me that the man who made Torque has made more
More
movies
movies.
than this
Yeah.
guy?
Um, but then the folks that wrote this, Terry Hughes Burton and Ron Milbauer. Okay, so the writers of this movie, because I'm like going through, you do that due diligence where you're like, so what else have these people done? And, going through some of the stuff, um, the Ron Milbauer, and he wrote a couple of episodes of Eureka, which I love Eureka. It's, it, a non technology understanding police officer goes into this town that is full of just super geniuses who are and there's never a villain of the week. It is science run amok of the week, and it's funny, and it's a lot of fun. So he was involved with that, and I think that the Terry Burton was even maybe involved in the creation of Eureka. She also wrote 3 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. Hopefully, it's one of the few good ones.
Mm.
And yeah, no, 4 episodes of Eureka as well. So they've done some writing through the years. But yeah, no, a producer there. I think they're both producers. Yeah, on Eureka, 33 episodes as producers. So that's, and again, really good. If you've never watched Eureka, it's one of those. It's very much worth the time.
So Eureka is also as good as you remember, or have you rewatched it?
I have not rewatched. I mean, I watched it religiously, and it's one of those few shows that beginning, middle to end, it's a good, solid show, and it's a family show. I mean, I could go and sit down and watch it with the kids. Maybe I need to, because it's great. It's a lot of fun.
I think I watched the first season for sure. I've, I have commitment issues with TV series sometimes.
Well, it does. It ends, and it has an actual ending, which is not bad.
That's good.
Now that the guy who is the main actor in that, what is his name? Devon Sawa. I've just butchered it, and my apologies.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible with names.
I don't recognize him from like anything else. I mean, he's been in stuff, but
He's got that. I mean, it's one of those situations where I've watched Idle Hands so much that I'm familiar enough with his face. I'm like, yeah, he seems really familiar, but that could just be because I only watch this one thing that you're in.
yeah.
Um,
I was visiting with Dad at the hospital yesterday, and so we're sitting there, and he's got the old Western Channel on, and through three things that I was there and watched, and I was like, oh, hey, that's Commodore Decker in the Doomsday Machine. He's the one who flies the shuttlecraft into the Doomsday Machine to try and destroy it, and Dad's like, oh, okay. And then there's something else. I think it was Gunsmoke, and I was like, oh, there's Robert Vaughn. That's cool. And Dad was even like, oh yeah, the guy from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I'm like, yeah. But the one I was really proud of myself is watching one of these westerns. Like, that's the guy from the Star Trek episode The Menagerie. He's like the admiral that's running the court martial. And how I remember that. Yeah, I know. I was like immediately like really proud of myself that I pulled that out, and also a little sad that my wife is right that See, that's what I need to do for as good as I remember is a free
Free
enterprise.
enterprise.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Requiem for the Martians, Methuselah. What was that?
Nothing.
Requiem for Methuselah aired Valentine's.
Valentine's Day, 1967.
I quote that movie all the time, and I haven't watched it in quite a few years.
I remember that's another one I remember enjoying at the time.
That was one of the I did like Idle Hands. I found it like by accident, never heard of it, and I went, "Ooh, William Shatner."
Yeah, we should probably do one for it because I haven't rewatched it in probably 10 years.
Yeah,
But Idle Hands is, I think, it's I like it. It's
yeah.
fine. It's
It,
not going to win anybody's
yeah.
best top 20, films, I'm sure, but it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
It's fun.
yeah. It's as good as I remember. I remember it being pretty good, and it's got it's a little bit better than an average rating. So I mean, it's worth a watch, worth a couple of chuckles. So yeah, I would say go watch it.
I agree.
All right,
So it was as good as you remember.
was as good as I remember.